Project Hail Mary is directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, written by Drew Goddard based on the Andy Weir novel of the same name, and stars Ryan Gosling, Sandra Hüller, James Ortiz, Lionel Boyce, Ken Leung, and Milana Vayntrub. Science teacher Ryland Grace wakes up alone on a spaceship light years from Earth. As his memory returns, he uncovers a mission to stop a mysterious substance killing the sun and save Earth. An unexpected friendship may be the key. This is a movie I was very much looking forward to, and I think a big part of that, and why this movie is so interesting, is Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, the directors. These are guys who, up until this point, have never made a bad movie. Their previous movies are Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, the 2 Jump Street movies, and the Lego Movie. And if there's one thing to notice about these movies, it's that in all of them, they just have their finger on the pulse of what people want. They are so great at making crowd pleasers and wearing a lot of references on their sleeve, throwing in a lot of references to classic movies in their movies, and it never feeling obnoxious. And another thing you noticed about those previous movies is the most recent one was in 2014. So Project Hail Mary is their first movie in 12 years, and that trend absolutely continues with this movie because this movie is just an absolute blast and an incredible crowd pleaser, and it doesn't matter that they've made this big change to massive sci-fi spectacle. Their personality and their heart and their skill is still all over this movie, but just kind of manifesting in a new way. And I love what they bring to this movie, that crowd-pleasing aspect that I talked about, that mixture of funny lines, great physical comedy, dramatic moments, sad moments, a heartbreaking story, big action set pieces, amazing spectacle. Like, this movie has it all. And it's all done just so well, and I think a big part of that is their prioritization and focus on practical effects. That makes everything in this movie just way more tangible, and you can really grab onto it and you feel it a lot more, and it allows you to really get immersed in this world. It's so all-encompassing and so brilliantly done. The production design, the cinematography from Greg Fraser, which is absolutely stunning. This is a guy who shot the first 2 Dune movies and the Batman, so he knows what he's doing as a cinematographer, and you can feel that all over this movie. There are a couple standout visual sequences, and he more than rises to the occasion. There's one in particular, kind of in the middle of the movie, that actually made my jaw drop. He really does some spectacular stuff on this movie, as does Daniel Pemberton making the score. His score kind of evolves with the narrative and feeling of the movie as it goes along, and I just was always engaged by it, and it was really adding a lot to some of the better scenes in this movie. But the most standout thing, and I mentioned the practical effects, this is truly a perfect visual effects movie. There is not one moment in the visual effects that feels off step or off kilter, and Phil Lord and Christopher Miller are not responsible for that directly, but I think that their focus on that really elevates the movie, and that stretches to the character of Rocky, this puppet creation that is unbelievable. And, when I first saw the teaser trailers, I thought this was a CG character, and I thought, how's Ryan Gosling going to act against a CG character for 2.5 hours? But this is fully puppeteered and performed by James Ortiz, who is just doing absolutely brilliant work as this character. I was so charmed by Rocky. I really fell in love with him. And, I thought that as the movie would go on, he'd get more annoying, but that was not the case at all. I was just all in on this character, and the physicality that Ortiz brings to it, as well as his vocal performance, is so massive for the movie and for the character. And it's really massive that this character is so well rendered, because this is basically Ryan Gosling's only scene partner for most of the movie. And Ryan Gosling is predictably unbelievable in this movie. He is just, a charm machine, unbelievable, so funny, and you get so many great laugh lines from him, but moments of physical comedy too, hearkening back to The Nice Guys, really tapping into that talent he has. but also tapping into that talent that he was showing a lot more in the 2010s that quietly, internally devastated Ryan Gosling. He has a couple crying scenes that are really great, and, you know, this whole movie falls apart if you don't have him cooking in the center for the whole movie. And again, for like 80% of this movie, he is either alone or acting against a puppet, and he is just brilliantly rendered, so interesting and so great. Like, I cannot say enough about Gosling here. I think this will be one of his signature performances when we look back at his career. This is really like a all-out showcase for just everything that we love about Ryan Gosling, and he is so fantastic. And you know, him and Rocky have so many great dialogue exchanges, and that is a credit, of course, to Drew Goddard and Andy Weir. I can't speak to how much Drew Goddard adapted the dialogue or the structure of the movie, but I enjoyed it most of the way through. But unfortunately, I did have some issues with this movie, and they do come in the script, and they come particularly in the Earth scenes. And the Earth scenes are these kind of flashbacks throughout the movie, and they're the only scenes where we see other human beings. And the kind of main character in these sequences is Sandra Hüller. And of course, like, Sandra Hüller is fantastic. She's so great, and she just plays this character exactly as she should. And she gets some great standout sequences. You know, a lot of people have been singling out this karaoke scene, and she's really great in it. And, you know, Phil Lord and Chris Miller do some great stuff to kind of visually distinguish it, you know, shooting these scenes letterboxed and having, like, kind of light pouring out into the black parts of the screen to kind of visually signify it's a flashback. Like, all that stuff is good, and you're getting a lot of important context for the mission, but my issue with the flashbacks is that none of the other human characters feel like real people. They all feel like NPCs or placeholders. And so when you're spending so much time with Ryan Gosling and Rocky and having all these scenes of them together and really falling in love with them, as the movie goes on and you're cutting back to the Earth sequences and you're seeing like Ken Leung and Milana Vayntrub, and you're like, oh, that's so funny, like, I don't know anything about these people. There's no characterization, and I understand that that is not major to the movie's success, but it ended up making those Earth scenes feel more hollow, especially as the movie went along. And that is also a little bit of a thing with this movie, is I do think it's just a tad too long. I think the third act is a bit repetitive, and that's when the flashbacks started really losing their weight for me, and the movie kind of replays plot beats in a way, or at least they're very similar. But my main issue is really with those Earth sequences and just like really wanting to learn more about the other astronauts involved in the mission. And you know, you've got Lionel, Boyce, and Ken Leung and Milana Vayntrub, like actors that people know, and I just felt that they were really underused, and it just led to those Earth sequences feeling really hollow. But here's the thing, is with this movie, it is so crowd pleasing, and all the stuff that is great is so like outrageously great that when I walked out of the theater, I wasn't going, man, but this and this. I was just flying. I was loving it. I was so happy. And that's the thing, is even though I do have issues with this movie, they kind of ultimately fall to the wayside a little bit because of just how euphoric this movie is at its best moments. And, you know, when you're in space, the spectacle is just absolutely beautiful and such a great crowd pleaser. So funny, so charming, dramatic, interesting. You've got a great score, great cinematography. So I would absolutely recommend Project Hail Mary. If nothing else, it's just a great time at the movies. You can bring whoever the hell you want. They'll probably have a great time. And I think many people, many young people especially, are going to really fall in love with this movie. And it's going to last for a long time. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, commenting, or subscribing. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye!